Hi there, this is Chris from IELTSadvantage.com, and this is a really important video because it's probably my #1 piece of advice. So I was talking to another IELTS teacher yesterday, and he asked me what would be the one thing that you would tell your students, or what would be the one thing that I could tell my students that would really help them improve their marks. And it's always this: just keep it simple, all right? So that sounds really counterintuitive. When people hear that, they don't believe me, because for months and years they have been told that the complete opposite, that you need to make things really complicated, that you need to make things complex. And in reality, keeping things simple and changing your mindset from IELTS is very complicated and I need to do complicated things to it is quite simple and I need to do simple things is really going to help you improve your marks. Now, let me tell you first about two students. So student A and student B. So today is Friday, and on Friday afternoon, every Friday afternoon, I get a number of emails from students who are doing their test on Saturday, so tomorrow. And the emails normally go something like, I'm doing my test tomorrow, I'm really worried. What last minute advice can you give me? And my advice is always the same: keep it simple. So we had one student, student A, and we had not dealt with them before, I hadn't taught them before, they were completely new to me, and I said keep it simple, and they got really angry with me. They were like, you don't know anything, that's ridiculous, that's nonsense, how would keeping it simple help me get a good score? And I said, no problem. You don't have to take my advice if you don't want it. You know, let me know how you do. Do it your way and let me know how you do. Send me an email when you get your results. Hopefully you do well, but if not, let me know. Then we had student B. So student B was a student that I had worked with for about 2 months, and they were emailing me just saying, doing my test tomorrow, can you give me some just reassurance, last minute advice? And I said, as I've been telling you for 2 months, everything you do, just keep it simple. And they said, thank you. I said, okay, let me know what score you get. So student A emailed me back a few weeks later, and they got a band 6, and they said, I'm really sorry that I said that you didn't know anything. I tried it my way. I didn't get the score that I needed. Can you help me out? I said, no problem. Student B, they did what I told them, kept it simple, and they get a band 8. Now those are just 2 students. So that doesn't really prove anything. You know, two things don't really mean anything in terms of a test that has 3 million people that take it each year. However, these 2 students are the same person. Okay, so student A came to me and didn't believe me, didn't think that they could keep things simple and get the score that they needed. They tried to do it the complex way, and then I taught them for about 2 months, and it was really just convincing them, changing their mindset about IELTS is very complicated, I need to do very complex things, to it's quite simple, keep it simple and you'll get the scores that you need. So they actually jumped from a band 6 to a band 8 just by removing this mindset of it's really complicated to doing things in a far more simple way. And that has been the case with thousands of my students, and it's probably the most common thing that they hear me say. So I'm in with them every day, teaching them in my Facebook group and in the course, and I'm constantly just saying, keep it simple, keep it simple, keep it simple. So first is just a little warning. So we're going to get into why people think it is really complicated, and then how you can keep it simple and improve your IELTS scores. But first, a little warning. I'm saying that it is simple, but that's not me saying that IELTS is easy, okay? So running, 25 miles is simple. You just put one foot in front of the other, but it's not easy, okay? So I'm not saying that IELTS is easy. You do need to put in the work. You do need to work hard and to improve yourself. But what I'm talking about is we are simplifying everything, making things as simple as possible, but not simpler. As Einstein said, I'm not stealing his quote. But anyway, so what is the purpose of writing? So let's talk about keeping things simple. And the first thing we need to say, or the first thing we need to ask ourselves is, what is the purpose of writing? Why does somebody write something? So the purpose of writing, to me, is to convey a message clearly. You write to someone to send them a message so that they will be able to understand it, okay? Not to show off your vocabulary, not to show how many amazing big long words you have, not to show off your grammar, not to show off crazy structures. It is just to convey a message. Alright? So when you start thinking about writing in that way, that it is simply writing down something on a piece of paper so that somebody will be able to understand what you have put down on that piece of paper, then your mind starts to change. So it's changing from let's show the examiner how many big words I know to just clearly sending them a message. Other thing is, what do IELTS want? Why are they getting you to sit that exam? Why are they giving you that writing exam? Basically, they want to know if you move to an English-speaking country or join a university or whatever you need it for, can you communicate clearly through writing? Your speaking test, can you communicate clearly through speaking? Your writing test, can you communicate clearly with writing? So think about the purpose of writing. The purpose of writing is to communicate clearly with someone, and that's what IELTS want to know. So if you're getting a band 7, a band 8, band 9, IELTS know, no problem, you can clearly communicate through the written word. If you're getting a band 6 or a band 5, you can kind of communicate, but there are some problems. You're not at that band 7, band 8, band 9 level. So thinking about it in that way is going to transform your writing. If you focus on clearly writing your message and clearly communicating with the examiner rather than showing off all these crazy complicated things, that really, really helps. And that piece of advice is worth more than all the $500, $1,000, $2,000 courses out there that you might attend. Just realizing that is really, really going to help you, and it's totally free to realize that. So why is IELTS so complicated? Or why do people think that it is so complicated and so complex? So the first thing, and probably the most important thing, is if you want to sell a course to someone. So I'm online all the time looking at different courses and looking at, offline courses as well, review centers and things like that. IELTS is a big business, all right? You cannot sell a course to someone and if you just say to them, actually it's not that difficult, it's quite easy. It's, or not easy, but it's simple. If you tell someone it's really complicated, it's going to take you a long time to learn all of this, it's really complicated, and I have all of these secrets that I'm going to give you, then people are more likely to give you money. If you just say to them, actually it's quite simple, they're less likely to give you money. So there's a huge industry within IELTS that it's within their interest. People that own schools, for example, I've been to Vietnam, I've been to the Philippines, I've been all over Europe, and I've looked at a lot of the different schools. They're charging a lot of money, and part of their selling process is to tell you that it's really, really complicated, because telling you that it's simple doesn't really sell courses. The other thing is just a misunderstanding of what IELTS is and about what they want. And we're going to talk about that a little bit. That's kind of IELTS' fault as well, but a lot of it is the fault of teachers and students just not looking at the correct data, not looking at the correct information, and it's not really their fault. There is a huge number of websites and books and all of these different things about IELTS, and they're all saying different things. A lot of them are inaccurate. There's a huge amount of misleading, confusing information out there about what IELTS is and what it isn't. So it doesn't help that there's so much information out there, and that causes a lot of misunderstanding. And when people misunderstand something, they tend to think that it's complicated and it's complex when it's not really. Lots of people fail, so it must be complex, right? So lots of people are doing the test and they think that they should be getting a band 7, 8 or 9, but they're getting a band 6 or 6.5. They keep doing the test, they keep failing, they talk to lots of people, and the general consensus is it's really difficult to get a high score in IELTS, especially in writing. Therefore, it must be really complicated and really complex. So we need complex, complicated answers. Not the case at all. The other thing is the integrity of the test. So it's not in IELTS' interest to tell you how the test is marked, because if they did that, then people would be able to cheat the test. So if I tell you exactly what to do, everybody would be able to just replicate that and do it, and then it wouldn't be a reliable test. And if it's not a reliable test, then it wouldn't be accepted by all the universities and the different places. So part of that mystery around IELTS, because they're trying to keep the reliability of the test, they're trying to keep how it's marked a little bit secret. They do have public band descriptors which are available to anybody, but they also have private ones which are slightly different, but mostly the same actually, if you look at the difference between the public and the private ones. But really, they don't want to tell you exactly how it's done, so that mystery around it kind of leads to misunderstanding and leads to a lot of people thinking that it is complicated and complex. IELTS, are they to blame for that? Not really. It's a test. They're not really going to tell everybody exactly how it is marked, which is why they have the private band descriptors. So, terrible advice. Here is some really, really bad advice that I see online telling people how complicated and complex IELTS is. First of all, use high-level, complex, or advanced vocabulary. Okay, so somebody who is at a band 6 or a band 7 level in vocabulary, if you're telling them to use vocabulary that is way, way above their level, and they're not 100% sure of the meaning, the spelling, how it is used in a sentence, the grammar, synonyms, antonyms, collocations, all of the things that you need to know in order to use that vocabulary effectively, and you're just giving it to them and getting them to insert it into their essay without them understanding it, that's not really going to work, and it's actually going to lower your score rather than improve your score. So I see this advice all the time, and it's really, really difficult to convince students to not use simple vocabulary, but use vocabulary that you are sure about, that you're 100% sure about the meaning, how to use it, collocations of it. And if you do that, you're improving your chances of getting a high score. Imagine in your native language, could you give me 200 or 300 really complex words and I could use them writing an essay in your language? No, I would be totally incapable of doing that. So why do you think that you would be capable of doing that in English? The other is use a wide range of complex grammar structures. So again, students are using grammar structures that they are not 100% confident about. And they're also going into the test, rather than answering the question, they're thinking grammar structures first. So they're answering the question by showing off their grammar structures and their complex sentences and all of these different things, rather than just by answering the question. So your main thing that you have to do, the number one thing you have to do in the test, is actually answer the question. I had one student who in every single essay, she put the first conditional, the second conditional, and the third conditional in the introduction, the main body, and then the conclusion. So her essay was just a complete mess because she was thinking about grammar structures rather than thinking about conveying her message clearly and answering the question. So I'm not saying use, really, really simple sentences and really simple grammar structures, but use the ones that are appropriate to use while you're answering the question. The third thing is use a complex structure. So I see lots of people who say, like, my secret structure will ensure that you get a band 9. Really not the case. That's not how the writing test is marked. You have to worry about grammar, vocabulary, coherence and cohesion, task achievement. Structures are going to get you there a tiny bit, but not as much. 90% of it isn't covered by a structure. And the purpose of a structure, the purpose of a good structure, is really to make your writing clearer and easier to understand. So if you're using really complicated ones and it's making it more difficult for the examiner to understand, then that's not really an effective structure. So that is but a lot of my keep it simple philosophy. It is the one piece of advice that consistently helps students get a high score. It is not a really complex, complicated test. It is quite straightforward. Whenever I get an email from a student, every single Friday I get emails from students that say, I got a band 7, I got a band 8, I got a band 9. The main reason was I just kept things simple, and I can't believe that I got there by keeping things simple. And it sounds really counterintuitive, but it does work. Try it out next time. Next time you're talking to your teacher, or next time you are, submitting an essay somewhere, or next time you're doing the test, focus, especially for writing, focus on clearly writing your message down, answering the question, and your writing is really, really going to improve. And the same with speaking, the same with all parts of the IELTS test. Hope you find that useful. Thank you very much. If you're watching this on Facebook, feel free to share. If you're watching it on YouTube, feel free to subscribe to the channel. And if you need anything, have a look at IELTSadvantage.com and we'll help you out. Thanks very much, guys. Bye-bye.